When you start looking into mental health support, it can get confusing, right? You see all these different titles: psychiatrist, psychologist, counselor, therapist. What's the difference anyway? Well, you are definitely not alone in asking that. It's a landscape of titles that can seem kind of complicated, but figuring it out is really the first step to getting the right help.
So, who should you see? How do you choose? To help us answer that, we're going to be drawing on some fantastic information from Professor Kevin Rogers over at Conner State College. My goal is that by the end of this, you'll have a super clear map to navigate all of this. All right, before we start comparing everybody, we need to build a solid foundation. So let's start with the absolute core of it all. What exactly is counseling? Once we get this down, it'll be way easier to see how the other roles are different. At its heart, counseling is a partnership. It's not about someone just telling you what to do. It's a professional, collaborative process, and it's all designed to empower you to reach your own goals, whether that's about mental health, general wellness, or even your career. So what does that actually feel like? Well, counseling is all about focusing on your strengths and your overall wellness, not just zeroing in on problems. The whole idea is to create a safe, non-judgmental space where you can explore your thoughts and build up your own resilience. And this brings us to a really crucial point. A counselor's job is not to give you advice. It's to help you find your own answers. Okay, let's tackle one of the most common points of confusion out there. You hear the words counselor and therapist used all the time, almost like they mean the exact same thing. And while they are super similar, and a lot of pros use both titles, there can be some subtle differences in what they typically focus on. So here's a look at those little differences. A counselor often hones in on specific, maybe more short-term challenges, things like navigating grief or making a career change, with a very direct, solution-focused approach. A therapist, on the other hand, might dig into deeper, more long-term patterns or issues from your past. Again, the terms totally overlap in the real world, but this gives you a sense of that potential difference in focus. Now, to really sharpen our understanding of what a counselor does, before we get to the main event, let's make one more quick but really important distinction: the difference between a counselor and a consultant. And yeah, the difference here is huge. A consultant is an expert you hire to give you direct advice and solve a problem, right? It's usually in a business setting. But a counselor, as we've been saying, is all about helping you with your personal growth in this collaborative, therapeutic relationship. They're licensed professionals focused on you, not on a business problem. Okay, with that foundation firmly in place, it is time for the main event. Let's put the three major mental health professions side by side and see exactly where they differ and where they're similar. This is where it all comes together. So when you get right down to it, what are the key differences between a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and a counselor? Well, it pretty much all boils down to three main things: their education, their primary approach to helping you, and whether or not they can prescribe medication. Let's break this chart down. First up, education. A psychiatrist is a full-on medical doctor, an MD. A psychologist has a doctorate, like a PhD or a PsyD, and a counselor typically has a master's degree. Now this education difference leads to the most important distinction on this whole chart. Because they are a medical doctor, only a psychiatrist can prescribe medication. That is the single biggest differentiator, the one thing to remember if you forget everything else. So, let's do a quick recap of each one. First, the psychiatrist. Remember, they are medical doctors. Their focus is often on the biological and neurological side of things, and they're the ones who can diagnose complex mental illnesses and manage medication. Next up, the psychologist. They have that doctoral degree, which means they've had tons of training in psychotherapy and research. And, this is a big one, they often specialize in psychological testing and assessment. They are the experts in talk therapy, but with a few very rare exceptions, they do not prescribe medication. And finally, the counselor. They've earned a master's degree and are licensed professionals. You'll often see LPC for a licensed professional counselor. They provide talk therapy, often for specific challenges, and have a really strong focus on wellness, personal growth, and helping you build coping skills. And, just like psychologists, they do not prescribe meds. So what in the world does all of this mean for you? We've gone through all the definitions and comparisons. Now let's boil it all down to the most important stuff so you can feel totally empowered to make an informed choice for yourself. Okay, here are the absolute key takeaways. Number one, education is the biggest difference maker. MD versus PhD versus a master's. Number two, only psychiatrists can prescribe medication. Number three, these professionals often work together. It's not always an either-or choice. You might see a psychiatrist for medication management and a counselor for talk therapy. It's all about a team approach to your care. And most importantly, the right choice always comes down to your specific needs and goals. I really want to leave you with this quote from our source material because it just perfectly captures the spirit of this whole field. It's not about being given the answers. It's about having a trained professional guide you as you discover your own strength, your own resilience.
So now you have the map. You can see the different paths and what makes each one unique. The question isn't what do all of these titles mean anymore. The question is, what's the right path for me or for someone I care about? And hopefully you now feel much more equipped to answer that.